and welcome. Welcome to the very historic program today, the last and the 75th webinar that we are having today at the end of a long journey, a journey that was conceived more than a year ago, a journey that was, in a way, a COVID baby. And many of us academicians in the field of media collected together online at a time when we could not meet one another. That was late 2020, and a couple of meetings more in early 2021. That's how Global Media Education Council was born. Born with the purpose that most of the international bodies on media and communication education are largely West-centric. And there are very good ones. In fact, with our program, we have a partnership with IIMCR, and there are many other organizations also in partnership. And the international organizations, they are doing a fabulous work. They have been there for 20, 40, or 50 years around. But often we find at the leadership level, the Africans and the Asians are hardly there. So this organization was also built with an idea that it will be erstwhile third world, but today's Asia and Africa, the rising power Afro-Asian region of the world, that would be the base of this organization, Global Media Education Council. Also because India started celebrating the 75th year of its independence since the last 15th August. With this, we started this organization. There was another point. Industry and academics of media, unfortunately, have distanced a lot, to a large extent where the industry doesn't believe that academics can do things which are productive in their perspective, from their perspective. And academicians believe that the industry is always in a hurry, and therefore the depth is lacking. There might be a bit of truth in both places, but there is also the need to build a bridge, an interface. And we expected GMAC, or we expect and would continue to expect GMAC to be an interface. And hence, in our active members, there are several industry people who have been also active in academics, like, let's say, Ashish Kulkarni, Dr. Bhaskar Das, and many more who are actually industry stalwarts in the various fields, Vivek Vaswani, but they have been contributing to academics as well, plus the academicians of media and communication. Then we gradually moved on to other nations. Just now we have a Bangladesh committee as well. We have a Nepal committee. We have an Africa committee, which is in the process of being made. And also, we are now looking forward to other committees, just for example, in Australia and in a few other nations as well. 11 nations, professors, senior professors are vice president. And that way, under the leadership of the president, Professor K.G. Suresh, who will join towards the end of this program today. He is just not flying, but he'll be joining. And I see my vice president, Dr. Ambrish Saxena, already joined. He might be on the way, but he is still joined there. And then there are other vice presidents and secretariat and mentor board. And most importantly, 42-member working committee. That working committee has been the real force of GMAC till now. And to make a big splash, we thought of this 75. And when we thought, actually, we were not sure that we'll be able to pull it through properly. So 75 evenings of Global Communication Education Conclave that started. And we had a research review body as well for supporting the research papers being presented. And now we'll be putting up an editorial team as well and things like that. Without taking more time, I would just like to say, including the speakers of today, we have 75 award winners, and we'll come out with a book called 75 Jewels of Indian Media and Communication Education. This will not include the 5 active members of GMAC, the most active members of GMAC, the secretary, president, and the 3 vice presidents. Minus them, 75 Jewels of Indian Media Education, that's one. They had been speaking, and the 75th winner would be speaking today. 75 foreign speakers, and that includes all the continents of the world. 75 foreign speakers, coming from as many as 23 countries, 35 bureaucrats and former bureaucrats of India, 67 research papers have been put up here. Some of the sessions did not have a research paper, but many sessions had 2 research papers also. 73 industry speakers. That's fabulous. And today also, we'll have a stalwart of the radio industry speaking today here. 42 moderators. And they are the leaders of every evening, and you'll find the leader today as well. 135 other speakers, that is chief guest, session chair, and special speakers, including the core members who have been introducing and all. So altogether, would you believe 502 members, 502 speakers across 75 evenings. That's a fabulous, fabulous number in my opinion. And to connect to 500 people, 502 people across 24 nations, 23 outside and India, and every state of India almost, it has been a fabulous journey. And this journey has been led by the working committee members and who have been leading each evening. Today's working committee member, the leader of today, is Professor Devavani Mukherjee, Associate Professor and Head of the Department of Institute of Leadership, Entrepreneurship and Development, I-Lead College of Kolkata, affiliated to Makaut, West Bengal, India. And she has been teaching in many, she is obviously a master's in mass communication and journalism, has been writing articles and books, had 2 years with Symbiosis Institute of Media and Communication, and also worked with NSHM and as well as University earlier. She is a voracious reader and pens short stories. She is a trained Bharatanatyam dancer and singer. With this brief introduction to the moderator, the working committee member, and the leader of today, and not introducing the other speakers whom Devavani would introduce, I will leave this session to Devavani today. And at the end, I will expect all to spare a minute or two to speak, because this is the last session of a long journey. To my mind, to my knowledge, you can enlighten me. I do not think there has been a single program which has run on 75 evenings across 6 months under one title of Global Communication Education Conclave, having 502 speakers from 23 nations. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but we are proud that we could pull it through. And we could pull it through because of academicians like Devavani Mukherjee. Over to you, Devavani, the leader of today's evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Chaudhary. Thank you so much. A very good evening and a very warm welcome to the Global Media Education Conclave. And we are actually on the last session of this conclave. We did start our journey on the 21st of October 2021. And it has been a wonderful, innovative, educative journey throughout, meeting so many stalwarts, so many eminent people. And today itself, I can see the gallery view, which is really proving that we have a star-studded evening, including some of the highest level educationists. So just before I start, I would like to also convey my regards to the panelists who are present today, and to the President, Professor K.G. Suresh, the Vice President, Professor Uma Shankar Pandey, Professor Ambarish Saxena, Secretary, Professor Ujjwal Kumar Chaudhary, and all other dignitaries who are present here. A cordial namaskar to all of you. Now without delay, let's start the program. I would request Dr. Professor Dhrubajyoti Chattopadhyay, who is our chief guest of this evening, to open the session. Professor Chattopadhyay is right now the Vice Chancellor of Sister Nivedita University. Prior to that, he was the Vice Chancellor of Amit University, Kolkata, and he was actually the ex-Pro Vice Chancellor of Calcutta University and a renowned person in nanoscience. Professor Chattopadhyay, I think this is, I am not speaking enough on your potential and your kind of contribution to the society. So I would like you to speak up and come on the podium as the chief guest and open the ceremony.
Could you hear me all?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
You are audible. You're audible.
Good evening, everybody. And let me first thank Devabadi for
Thank you,
inviting
sir.
me. And it's a very prestigious one today, isn't it? So as Devabadi
Yes, sir.
mentioned, we started
Yes.
from October 21st, and we actually covered this particular 75 lectures. And all these stalwarts who have given these lectures for this last 75 days. Now today is the final date, actually, what you just mentioned, 13th April 2020.
Which means covering your mouth and nose with your bent elbow tissue when you cough or sneeze. Maintain 1 meter
I
distance.
request everyone to mute their devices, please. Kindly mute their devices, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Sorry,
Thank
sir.
you very much. Yeah. So I also thank the Global Media Education Council for organizing this Global Communication Education Conclave. And you know that today the topic of this session is media rights and freedom in digital times. And I could see that the panelists who are present over here, like Professor Suresh, then Dr. Ruchi Jaggi, Professor Ujjal Chaudhary, Dr. Raspin, Dr. Ipshita, and Devobani, and definitely one of my favorite, Mr. Jimmy Tangre, along with others who are present over here, Divakar Shukla, Ambarish Saxena, and all of you who are present over here. Let me, on behalf of myself, give all of you a big congratulations. Now, in this era of digitalization, the law needs to be adapted to protect and safeguard the fundamental rights. But when we actually think about these digital rights, it should be linked to freedom of expression and privacy. And these are the that allow people to access, use, create, and publish in digital media, as well as access and use computers, other electronic devices, and communication networks. When I was thinking about these digital rights, these are nothing but are an extension of human rights for the internet age. And the types of media rights, what we could see that although each country is developing its own digital rights charter, there are some general guidelines that all countries follows and which we review, like one is the universal and equal access. The other one is freedom of expression, information and communication. Then the privacy and data protection. Then the right to anonymity, right to be forgotten. Now, this is a right to have a person's private information removed from internet searches, databases, and directories. And it is currently recognized by the European Union in the GDPR as a right to delete. And it has already invoked in other countries such as Argentina, US, South Korea, and India. Now, protection of minors is another one, is where the government must not only ensure the protection of children on the internet, as in the case of child pornography, but also ensure that companies provide the means to guarantee safe access without informing the rights of children. And definitely at the end, I should look at it is the very important area is intellectual property, which is very, very important. Now, when we talk about the privacy and data protection, the citizens must have control over who stores their personal data and be able to actually know that at any time. And the right of privacy is threatened on the internet by the theft of credentials, the appropriation of personal data, and the use of financial gain. So in that background, the digital technologies are transforming the way the basic rights, such as all the different things which we consider as basic rights. Now, technological advances are constant, and each brings with it the need of a new regulatory framework. Now, the hyperconnectivity that 5G facilitates, the collection of data with devices from Internet of Things, analysis of the same with big data, and the use of edge computing for processing, among others, generate the need to regulate the traffic of information, guaranteeing the rights of individuals. Now, I just want to end by telling to all of you, I am not the expert, but what I understand, what I learned, and what actually the COVID helped me to actually become more digitalized than what I am. Now, this evolution of this legislative framework, these advances also invite the development of digital ethics that prevent the violation of rights. Ethical considerations are relevant in cases such as the digital will, which determines what to do with the digital presence of the deceased. Now, cyber rights recognize the right of individuals to access. Now, when we talk about this Universal Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations as applied to the online world, its main objective is to guarantee access to the internet, avoiding the so-called digital divide, which is very, very important, and a proper use of the network as a common asset belonging to the whole humanity. However, the lack of the international consensus has led each country to develop its own digital rights charter. Despite this, supranational bodies like European Union are proposing a common framework, at least with regard to the right to personal data protection. The General Data Protection Regulation, that is GDPR, which came into force in 2018, obliges member countries both to preserve citizens' personal data and to allow the free movement of data. And in that way, this particular media rights and the freedom in digital times are actually, we have to look upon it. Thank you very much. And thanks for giving me this opportunity with my very little knowledge in the subject area in front of the important dignitaries who are the experts in the field. Namaskar.
Sir, you are a biotechnologist and you spoke the essence of the things, digital rights, charter and data protection regulations, and some of the other key points that you brought in. I mean, fabulous. That's a good beginning to our discussion today. Privacy, indeed, in digital times is the biggest challenge, undoubtedly. And thank you for being there. As a Vice Chancellor, you are extremely busy, I am aware. But thank you for being and responding to Madam Devavani's invitation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I would also repeat what Professor Chaudhary has said, that you are a person from complete science background, but then you spoke so well about the media rights status, and with COVID times, the change of laws and the change of presentations of media and what we teach in class. You have really given us a brownie point in that. We have added to our syllabus too. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. With Dr. Chattopadhyay opening the ceremony today, I would now request our session chair, Dr. Ipshita Barat, to be. Ma'am, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Am I audible?
Yeah, okay. Yes, you are audible. So we are now welcoming and introducing Dr. Ipshita Barat, our session chair for today's ceremony. She is the head of Mass Communication and Radiography Department, Faculty, Film Studies Department of St. Xavier's College, Kolkata. Madam Dr. Barat, you are now requested to speak a few lines of regarding this media rights and freedom in the digital times. The platform is yours.
Thank you. I would begin by, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're completely audible.
I would begin by thanking, of course, Professor Devavani Mukherjee. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
Thank you, ma'am.
UKC sir, indeed, thank you once again for inviting me. It's indeed an honor to be here today. Other esteemed guests here present here, good evening from my side. So basically, I teach cinema, and my area of research is cinema as well. And when Professor Mukherjee kind of spoke about media rights and spoke about, with respect to digitization, I was thinking about, what about cinema? What's happening with regard to cinema in these new times. And of course, there is a lot of things which are happening pertaining to narrative and so on. But when we focus on when I talk about the industry itself, so this is supposed to be a very good time for cinema, vis-a-vis, because the OTT has come into place. And we all know that, the entire OTT hype has been there during the pandemic when the multiplexes stopped operating completely. And that's when everybody were watching films in the OTT platform. And that's where, the new mode of film distribution started, which is called the OTT first model. Which a couple of films started, and then it became like a regular phenomenon. So this was supposed to be extremely good times, and of course, this is, I'm kind of taking digitization a little further. Digitization, of course, happened long back with regard to cinema, but this was even multiplexes were kind of screening digital films, so to say, but this was kind of extension of it. So it's a truly digital platform. The films are being made digitally, the films are being distributed digitally, and it's on in streaming platforms. So everybody is watching it in digital formats. And films are now available in several formats. So you can watch it on your cell phone, you can watch it on your tab, you can watch it on your computer. So these are very, very good times pertaining to cinema. But even though I'm taking the example of cinema, it's true for actually all other media formats, be it news or be it any other media format. So these are fantastic times. When it comes to news, we say now there's a lot of citizen journalism. So also people are reporting directly on social media platforms. So these are fantastic times. However, when one goes into a little bit into the industry dynamics of the functioning of the same, you find out that when it comes to film, there are only very few production houses. In fact, the word production houses is almost on the verge of becoming redundant, right? It's rather called the studio. This is the new term which has come up. And there are only very few functional studios, and these names being Yashraj, Dharma Production, Reliance, Red Chilies, you can count them on fingers, right? So this is indicative of a particular conglomeration in the Bombay-based film industry. Now, interestingly, your conglomeration is there to a certain extent. When it comes to, say, distribution, when it comes to multiplexes, and I'm coming to OTT a little later. When it comes to distribution, the multiplex format, you can not just count them on fingers, there are actually only three of them. So there's PVR, there's Inox, there is Cinepolis, and this is the fourth one. Just one second. And in fact, there's recent merger of PVR and PVR and Inox as well. So there's actually three participants in the industry who are kind of working. And therefore, when we are talking about media rights, when we are talking about freedom of media, this is something which is very, very alarming, because it comes down to ultimately each of these are corporate entities. So it comes down to three people who are basically ultimately making the decisions of which film to release and so on. Now, of course, then the OTT came, and then OTT was wow, because now everybody, all small filmmakers now were rushing to the OTT platforms. But then, if you look at the entities who are owning these, OTT platforms, again, there are very few in numbers, right? There's Netflix, there's Hotstar, and there is Prime. These are three primary players. And of course, there are few smaller fishes, but if you see the tendency of which Prime has already started, so they club content, right? So it has a partnership with even Hoichoi and so on. So ultimately, it's a very few players. So there's a lot of conglomeration in the industry. There's a lot of vertical and horizontal integration in the industry, which has led to massive conglomeration in the media industry. Now, till now, I was only talking about entertainment, right? I'm talking about cinema, and then fine, and it's okay if 3 people or 4 people are kind of only owning what films are going to come into the market. What about news now, right? Again, I'm not going into details of data and so on and so forth, but the TRI itself, if you go to the TRI's website, I mean, they have clearly mentioned that India, there's this alarming situation with regard to cross-media ownership, that is ownership across media platforms. It's alarming with regard to the number of media players, right? In fact, according to Ben Bagdikian, a scholar, as of 2005 report, as of 2000 report, there's only 6 media players who take account for more than 60% of the world media business. And then again, one can recount these are AOL, Time Warner, News Corp, Disney, Bertelsmann, Viacom, and Vivendi Universal. So this is, I'm talking in the world scenario, let alone be India. And if I talk about India, of course, there are examples like Times Group, there's Network 18, there is and there's India Today Group. So they basically have multiple media holdings. Now here, this is the basic industry situation where we are talking about media rights. And therefore, I talk about media rights with a certain pause, by taking a certain pause, because how are we talking about rights when it's just in the hands of very few people who are ultimately the decision makers? They become the agenda setter. They decide what's on the plate for us. And therefore, there should be much more. Number one, there's not also much research when it comes to conglomeration of the media business, in the business side of it. So apart from the narrative or apart from the content, I also believe that scholars should also be much more intrigued, and particularly in these fantastic times, but also in these times when there's a lot of question with regard to who owns media. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. You have once again harped the point, and you were talking largely about these OTT platforms and the so fast developed these Prime, Amazon, then Hoichoi, and then Hotstar, all these online portals, which is a development, which is an aftermath of this online kind of education or online kind of viewership. So we really enjoyed your session, where there was the little bit of entertainment which touched us, and we go through it regularly. We really still, as of date, we really don't go to the multiplexes despite it is open. We try to stick on to our regular subscription with Prime, then with other OTT platforms, which gives us a quick view of the films. And secondly, what you have done, it is an amalgamation of media rights, and the condition of the entertainment industry is an eye-opener for us. It was wonderful having you here. And if you ask me, it was wonderful talking to you over telephonic conversations for a brief period. I really love to see you, though virtually. So
absolutely.
we are.
I look forward to meeting you.
Yeah, of course we'll meet, ma'am. Now, a big thank you to you for your part of presentation and your part of speech. Now we move forward to the next part of the session, where we have a very wonderful and a very renowned person who is the award winner of this evening, Dr. Ruchi Kher Jaggi. I have not met Ruchi ma'am personally, but I know her so much because of her constant communication, and she is with an institute where I was once a teacher. So I really love to see I could contact her, and finally she said yes to this program. And Ruchi ma'am, we are all so elated to have you on this platform, and the entire gallery who are watching you. I convey my deepest regards to you from the GMEC Council, and there is a loud round of applause, though we cannot clap and you can't hear the claps, but it's a loud round of applause for your presence, and as the award-winning educationist and a stalwart from the media industry. Professor Chaudhary, can we do the needful?
Yes. Can we have the short video first, please? Host, can you play the short video on the award of the evening?
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Ruchi ma'am. Congratulations, Ruchi ma'am. And
for almost
Yes.
more than a decade, now more than a decade, the phenomenal work happening both on the front of applied research, academics, and also industry placement from the Symbiosis stable of Symbiosis University has been led by Dr. Jaggi. But that's the formal part. Also, I must say, she's one rare academician from India who is recognized globally, brought in large projects. We hear about projects in engineering, in management. We hardly hear about projects from global level or from industry in media. But she brought large projects for the university where both faculty members and students or learners got involved. But again, and she is a well-known scholar of television, particularly television viewership, television programming, and the impact of television programming on different segments of society. But these are, again, the formal part of Madam. What I would like to share for a minute is that she's an extraordinary, and this is not because she is getting an award today. I have known her for a long time now. It should be, I think, 15, 16 years or more. She came from Amit University, joined Symbiosis University. I was dean at that time. And she did a fabulous work in bringing a research culture, a discipline in academics, and also to take the students, to bring the students the beauty of research. Often the students, when they come into such well-known branded institutes, they are in a hurry for just placements. That's important. Productivity, employability are important. But a major part of that is also understanding the value of research in day-to-day lives, in industry, and also in academics. She brought that culture in a major way. Today, Symbiosis Media School is respected not just for great placements, but also for good research. It could be applied research, it could be fundamental research, may change from issue to issue. And she also brought in a very human touch to academics, a personal touch with students. And therefore, today, both students from my times and later on, they are so much in awe and in appreciation of their ma'am. And I am really proud to have had a great colleague when I was working there. And I'm also so fortunate to know her parents as well personally. They're so loving, affectionate. We did programs across the country. She was responsible for Chandigarh, and that time I had the privilege of meeting her parents and actually having some snacks or some breakfast. I don't remember fully with them. So, I have seen a human touch. There are great scholars, and then there are great human beings, and then there are great women. And she is one who combines all the three. Thank you for being present today. Thank you for being for your students. And since you are very young, even we are also young by that in that sense, you will be contributing immensely, I know, to this field of academics in media. You are setting standards, and we are setting standards, and we hope the standards will go even higher. Over to you to speak, and there is a disturbance from someone's end. Please mute your device. And Dr. Ruchi, It's all your time now.
Thank you, sir. I think you just spoke about my parents, so I just got a little emotional. Remembering them, you remembering them and talking about them at this very, very lovely moment for me. I think it makes it all very special. And thank you so much for the honor, and thank you so much for this acknowledgement. I'm glad that you still call me young, and I want to be like that always. But I think this journey has been not just no journey is about a single person, and there are always people. So when I came to Symbiosis, it was you who responded to me, and therefore I came to Symbiosis. And then, other things happened. And now in this gathering today, I have a few of my colleagues, very dear colleagues, who have joined the session. I see their names here: Mudita, Sushobhan, Sneha, Professor Fattare, Ramesh, Partha, and if I'm missing any name, I'm so sorry. But there are so many of them at the Institute also who have been instrumental, and they have supported me throughout. And of course, your students, they become everything in these journeys. But yes, I have always been very academically inclined as a person, and therefore that is not something that I do as an aside or under any pressure. That's something I'm internally driven towards. And if I'm able to create an ecosystem where I'm able to inspire more people to take it up, well, I would think that that is also kind of a contribution one makes. So thank you so much for this honor. I am deeply, deeply humbled. And I am so sorry for saying, postponing it for so many days when I kept getting calls from GMEC. But I think I had to have the last word, and therefore I think 75th day and this context makes it so special. So thank you so much. Thank you, Professor Devavani, for all the conversations and the invite. And Ujjwal sir, to you and the whole team at GMEC for this honor. And thank you. I should take this opportunity to also thank Symbiosis, who has always had my back in whatever I have wanted to do, and what else can I say? Thank you. And do you want me to start my talk immediately, or would you like to?
Yes, you could.
Oh, no, please, ma'am. Please, ma'am.
For me, when you say the young, I just remember your child in the lab. She is now a grown-up lady.
Yes,
now a grown-up lady. So because in my mind, she is a kid.
No, and she and my family, my spouse, I think I am very, very, my spouse's parents, I think I have this amazing support system, which has made a lot of these things possible. So yeah, thank you for remembering her. She's now 18, and I have always been telling her to vote responsibly. So I think what an interesting evening, and also the kind of topic that has been chosen for today. And therefore, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of give it a little bit of a different flavor. So the webinar is titled Media Rights and Freedom in Digital Times. In my talk, I conceptualize streaming platforms as the digital context. And I have then operationalized media freedom as the creative freedom available to streaming platforms, and therefore the possibilities to tell stories that do not conform to the tropes that a very restrictive legacy media imposes. And since I work significantly in the space of gender, I would be discussing the changing representations of women protagonists on Indian streaming platforms. Now, the lexicon that describes the growth of India's media and entertainment sector is replete with words like explosion, revolution, disruption. The post-economic liberalization that ushered the advent of satellite television with hundreds of channels of different categories was a complete transition from the earlier era of one straight-run broadcaster. While there are 906 TV channels, according to the recent FICCI EY report, television's overall penetration in India is more than 70%. India also, interestingly, has the second largest number of internet users in the world, and that is around 700 million. Now, if we just kind of try to look the whole Indian media context, commercial Indian cinema, in general, the mainstream Hindi films like Bollywood in particular have predominantly had a larger than life hyper-masculine hero portrayed as virtuous and courageous, who is capable of restoring order and peace in the society and nation in a patriarchal context. For the longest time, this narrative structure was the only way films figured commercial success, and they still do. The television soap opera also tells stories of virtuousness and the restoration of order through strong protagonists on the television screen, with a difference that this protagonist is a woman whose scope is limited to her family. Now, sacrifice and suffering have defined the journey of these women on TV always. They continued to do it for years, and they ensured that this modus operandi was contextualized in the house and the hearth. And there was a lot of overdose of melodrama always. Even when we talk about TV soaps in the year 2022, the narratives of soap operas have very, very similar portrayals still. The feminine representations on Indian television soaps have been traditionally stereotypic, tied by a common bond of oppression and patriarchy, and have shaped the discourses on everyday practices of gender and legitimization of rituals and practices, which are narratively constructed as if they emerge from religious and socially appropriated norms. Now, general entertainment channels, primarily which are driven by soap operas and reality shows, have always had the highest viewership share. Over the last 25 years, there were feeble attempts to challenge these representations, which did not, however, meet with much success and were therefore not encouraged in a legacy media system, which was driven by TV ratings and advertising revenues. However, the modern Indian women in particular, has been absent in these narratives. A study by Malhotra and Rogers in 2000 actually found that 10% of women characters worked outside the home on television, as opposed to 95% men characters in Hindi soap operas on Indian TV. In my own study, I found that the women-oriented narratives in the soaps were based on the concepts of rigid family structures and patriarchy. While soap operas continue to further these portrayals on network television, the millennial and post-millennial viewers have largely been detached from this kind of content, and they have distanced themselves from this kind of programming. So over-the-top content has seen a phenomenal growth in the last 5 years. And as we all are aware that there are 40 such platforms currently which have been streaming original Indian fictional content. In fact, the internet has also provided greater freedom to creators as opposed to television. This has got reflected in the original Indian content, with women protagonists being screened across several OTT platforms. This content is characterized by diverse genres and multifaceted representations of gender. So what I'm going to do in my talk is discuss the representation of women characters in original Indian streaming context further in the context of neoliberal and post-feminist sensibilities. The original content being telecast on OTT platforms comes across as both liberated and uninhibited. What is also regularly emerging as a significant finding is that the younger audiences do not find television content relevant and exciting anymore, and therefore are more drawn towards the more realistic and identifiable original content being run on these OTT platforms. 28 million Indians, which actually has gone up from 10.5 million in 2019, paid for 53 million OTT subscriptions in 2020 alone, leading to a 49% growth in digital subscription revenues. And this is in the 2021 FICCI EY report. This was aided, of course, by inexpensive data plans, increased smartphone usage, deeper internet penetration, greater appreciation of differentiated forms of storytelling. Now, according to the research agency Kantar, 42% women comprise viewership on Indian OTT platforms. An article on Exchange for Media that I was reading quotes a trade analyst who stated that new series, originals are being marketed and launched, targeting females and eyeing their pie of revenue share as audiences. Now, this information explains the reasons why the media industry and content creators are pushing for more women-centric content with diverse storylines on Indian OTT platforms. To put it simply, it makes business sense. The upside of this is that Indian web series space is being continuously redefined by complex narratives and strong women protagonists whose journeys explore diverse genres and their subsequent characterization. Now, while I discuss the changing representations of women on television, I would like to quote two very powerful scholars from American television studies, Hohenstein and Thalmann. Hohenstein and Thalmann, in their 2019 study on Black is the New Orange, they stated that feminine finally got to be what men had long been and been celebrated for. That is, complex, multidimensional, and even transgressive heroines of their own stories. Borrowing from this statement, I discuss that women in original Indian content on streaming platforms are being represented as more complex characters negotiating with different dimensions of gender performance. So what I'll do is I will discuss two shows very briefly. One, which is called Ladies' Room, which is a Yash Raj Films production, and it's telecast like open access on YouTube. And the second one is the Sushmita Sen starrer Arya, which also has a second season now, and it is streaming on Disney Hotstar. What I'm going to argue is that gender performance of the central women characters of these series is a derivative of their post-feminist identity. Now, Ladies' Room is the 2016 web series streaming on YouTube, which represents both its women protagonists in very unconventional ways. A comedy drama, this show is driven by the everyday life experiences of its primary characters, who are neither portrayed in any relational roles nor conform to the conventional feminine stereotype. The narrative integrates elements of humor very, very interestingly and very intelligently in its imagery and dialogues, which is a departure from the usual melodramatic conventions through which women characters have been represented on Indian television. It is defined by post-feminist and neoliberal sensibilities, but refuses to define its women characters by any gender stereotypic framework. Friendship, fun, and life problems are negotiated in a manner reminiscent of men's stories, or more specifically, masculine narratives interspersed with risk-taking behavior, independent-mindedness, individualistic expression, and self-reliant attitude. The deep bond of friendship between the two women and their support for each other is reflective of an agentic gender performance, which by far has been a dimension of masculine representations. In fact, in one particular episode, one of the protagonists undergoes an abortion, and she's shown to be completely unemotional about it. You know, in a society where there is so much of expectation from urban women with respect to childbearing and other social conventions that come with it. This particular series resonates with the lived realities of contemporary young urban Indian women who negotiate with the concept of gender performance in far more fluid ways than their fictional counterparts on mainstream television, who continue to exist in claustrophobic patriarchal structures, adhering to fixed notions of feminine gender performance. I will now talk about Arya, which is actually the first season came in 2020, and now the next season came, I think, late 2021. It is an original Indian web series which is streaming on Disney Hotstar. It is adapted actually from a Dutch crime series called Pinoza, where again there's a woman protagonist. It features Sushmita Sen in the titular role. Arya is actually another name for Indian goddess Durga and is interestingly used as a name for both boys and girls in India. The series is contextualized in neoliberal subjectivities and urban sensibilities, but it also intersects with notions of caste and class privileges in a traditionally patriarchal setting saturated with violent cultures. One of the most striking features of the series is that despite the ensemble of characters and cast, the spotlight continues to be on the central woman character. Arya comes across as a loving, caring, strong, intelligent, even shrewd sometimes person who keeps her focus on her home, children, spouse, and family to begin with. Only after her spouse is killed and she's thrown in between a conflicting and confounding situation complicated by conspiracy and deceit that we start observing her transformation in the way she takes control. Arya displays the characteristics of stoicism, resilience, and courage throughout. She's shown to hold back her emotions and displays a strong sense of calm and composure, an understated, resilient demeanor, very characteristic of the representations of traditional male characters otherwise. In terms of attire, she wears only solids and pastels and portrays a serene physical persona. She's also known to be investing her time and energy in physical workouts, which is also a way she is portrayed to cope up with anger and trauma. Again, a traditionally non-stereotypical gender representation of women. There are several instances in this series where she combines traits of both femininity and masculinity in her performance of motherhood, of friendship, and even enmity. Arya's character constructs and performs her gender identity in the context of her family and community, and yet confronts the normative gender codes. As the women characters of television continue to fiercely guard the tenets of patriarchy, the women characters on OTT platforms are exploring post-feminist identities and also negotiating a female identity that integrates a masculine identity. Hence, it is imperative, I think, for scholars to view and deconstruct the gender portrayals in original Indian content on streaming platforms, which challenge and confront the monolithic configurations of what it means to be a woman. There is limited scholarship on the original Indian content streaming on OTT platforms. Hence, what I'm trying to do in my work, and a lot of scholars where we are working together, we are trying in our discussions to attempt to relocate the site of investigation of our research to OTT platforms, where there is much more creative freedom. I mean, and we really don't know what lies ahead with the new regulatory regime, but we are really hoping that this is that site of investigation, the OTT platforms, which are portraying women and the performance of gender in diverse ways, who have otherwise found themselves marginalized, stigmatized, and excluded from mainstream narratives of linear television in India. Well, I'd just like to conclude by saying that these new platforms have enabled a paradigm shift in storytelling strategies, and they are constantly questioning, destabilizing, and dismantling the myths that have influenced gender representation in Indian media content. Thank you so much.
At least you have made me interested to watch Arya now. It's an interesting case study that you have explained.
Yes.
Very interesting. Thank you. And I really like this femininity, masculinity blended in Arya's character. I really need to watch it and understand this observation. I've tried to capture a few of your points. It was so, the flow was so strong that I couldn't capture every point, but I tried to do in the chat box. You can have a look. I also would like to tell everyone that we are joined by two stalwarts in this program just now.
Yes.
Just before you started speaking, we have the President of Global Media Education Council, Professor K.G. Suresh, Vice Chancellor of Makanlal Chaturvedi University, just now has joined. He'll be speaking towards the end. And I also have the pleasure of acknowledging the presence from the very beginning of the former Chief Information Commissioner and editor of Ajker Potrika, a third largest newspaper of Bangladesh, and a mentor for Global Media Education Council, Dr. Muhammad Ghulam Rahman, who is also present in the show today. Thank you, sir, both of you, for your presence. We'll wait to hear your voice after the panel is done. And,
thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.
And welcome.
Thank you,
Welcome,
Dr.
Ghulam, sir. And welcome, Ghulam, sir, and welcome,
yeah,
Professor
it's my pleasure.
Suresh.
Thank you very much.
And welcome, Professor Suresh. And as far as we
I have just landed from Chennai.
Okay, sir.
So
okay,
I wanted to join this.
It's nice to hear from you.
Listening to Ruchi,
Yeah.
She really spoke well.
Yes, that was an awesome speech. And Ruchi ma'am, I could really connect you because I'm a person who keeps on studying about gender studies, which out of choice I do. And Arya, I have watched Arya 1, session 1, the web series season 1, and have watched season 2, and I'm eagerly waiting for season 3, where Arya would be totally fighting against the one and only villain, along with her 3 children. And she really has done a mammoth job, despite her feudal kind of family she's coming from, and her father, who had finally was killed, and the family members killed, and the bodyguards. And for a while, despite the topic being media rights and freedom in digital times, which is a very stereotyped and a very kind of boring topic teaching in the class, I could relate myself with you. And this is actually the area which all children look forward to listen to. And I still consider that I have a child in me, and I'm a movie freak, a theater freak, and I keep on watching these. And years back, to add a little bit, years back when I was working in JNU with Dr. Bishnupriya Dutt, the daughter of eminent Utpal Dutt, she had asked me to do a project on theater, harping the women in Bengal theater, like Noti Binodini. And she was a kind of a lady who was coming from a very downtrodden family and looked down upon, despite her superb talent in different performances, acting, dance, music. So I could relate. I had done an elaborate project on that, visiting different sectors of Calcutta, taking interviews from the stalwarts, theatre stalwarts who are still living. And I could relate to what you said. It was an awesome speech, ma'am, once again, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And with this, now we move forward to our corporate speaker, the most famous, Jimmy Tangri. I don't think I need to introduce Mr. Jimmy to anyone because his voice says all. From being head from Friends FM, which is just a very small introduction about him. We all remember him for his Friday night program, Dil Se. So, Mr. Tangri, or fondly we all call him by his name, Jimmy. Now the platform is all yours, and please, I request you with all kind of warmness, please do the needful.
Well, thank you, Devavani. Thank you. It's such a pleasure being out here. You know, I'm truly humbled and honored to be with all of you all. And I feel that each and every panel discussion, each and every interaction is a learning experience for me. Every day I'm learning. Though I've been in radio over 28 and a half years and I've been DJing since 38 years, I think every day is a learning experience. And I'm happy for that, you know. Still, whatever, whenever, however, one is learning. I would also like to thank the Global Media Education Council. And I was zapped and I felt fantabulous right in the beginning when I saw that doodle video which was being displayed. Hats off to all of you guys. I think a wonderful job done. I'm so happy to see educationists and media personalities all coming together and not just trying to make a difference, but making a huge difference, because there are a lot of kids out there who are very, very serious about media and mass communication, and they really seriously want to make it a career. When I started off, people used to laugh at me. Are you mad? You know, radio, DJing, you know, I mean, what's wrong with you? You know, there you can become an engineer, you can become a doctor, but I still think, you know, today is the modern day era where kids look forward to adverse careers, different careers, and they can make a difference by being in the portion of mass communication and media, which is very, very important. I'm in the business of radio, and that too private FM. Wow, a lot of regulations, a lot of don'ts and do's. You know, we are not allowed on radio to talk about news and current affairs. We have to stick to infotainment and entertainment. That's on radio. Okay, we are quite happy with that, as we are engaging, interacting, and touching people's lives. And the mantra for me, especially in our station, is we are the only 24/7 live station in the country. And it's very, very important from the radio medium is to interact, engage. Otherwise, it's just about a great voice, great music, which anybody can do. And if I look back 2 years, you know, just when the pandemic started, you know, I'm very proud of my team that way. I remember it was on the 22nd of March, the lockdown was kind of declared, and we took a firm stand, my entire team and myself, that irrespective of lockdown or no lockdown, the station is going to be live, active, engaging from the studios. Each and every RJ will go to work and we will engage and interact. And I think that is the most important thing, whether you are in television media, whether you are in radio, or whether you are on digital. If you really want to connect, you really want to make a difference, if you really want people to love what you do, whether it be something or nothing, the mantra is engagement. And 2 years ago, we actually decided in a big way to take radio one step up. We became the only radio station in the world, and I'm very proud of that, to actually stream digitally. And the basic concept was to engage with the people who were just hearing us in a city or about 80 to 90 kilometers away. Today, my RJs interact with the world on digital. My, uh, my RJs basically are connecting. We are connecting with the city, we are connecting with the state, we are connecting with the country, and we get people from the US, Germany, connecting with us from all over the world, calling in live to the station and remembering the nostalgia of the city they were born and brought up in. Now, when we go across, of course, there are a lot of rules and regulations on air, but it's a little confusing when you get into the digital stream, when you get in onto the digital area of performance or engagement. There is nothing, there is no regulation as such which stops me or binds me. Each country seems to be having a different regulation. Each country has their do's and don'ts, and I'm surprised for a medium which goes right across the world. We have different regulations from different parts of the world. In India, I can't do this or I can do this. In Germany, I can do this and I can't do that. So what's use of multiple regulations across the world when we have the digital media, which is on the internet, which is going across the world? I think there should be a world body. There should be a specific set of regulations. And I think as international bodies and countries, we should follow them. It would give more apt freedom for us to connect across the world, without being worried about, what's going to happen and what's not going to happen. Very, very important. And in these times, and I think last 2 years, digital has created an evolution. It's actually come out from sleep. It was just confined to a certain section of the people, the youth. But today, walk, talk, sleep, eat, everything is digital. People can't move 1 feet without basically on their phones or connecting. Today, radio has taken such a step forward. You don't need to have a radio set with you. If you want to interact with a radio person, you can be on Facebook. We are on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn, and you can connect and engage with the jocks. Previously, it was an imagery transfer because of the voice. Today, it's an imagery transfer and it's a visual delight with a lot of interaction. That's where the digital world has taken the medium of radio too. And I think it's wonderful because, we are connecting, we are close to hearts, we have made a difference. People from across the world were sharing their experiences of pandemic via the digital medium on radio, and that too live. Today, even we are using a software called Restream, where I can go and simultaneously stream over 30 platforms, 30 platforms at one time. So my single RJ is on 30 platforms. And the mantra is not about streaming music, no way. We don't want to disturb intellectual property rights. We don't want to violate copyright. It's about engaging and interacting. That's where the listeners and the people who want to talk, want to express their feelings, want to discuss their low times and the high times. And I think it's a wonderful platform. As of now, when we talk about to authorities, is there any rules and regulations? We are told nothing as such. For digital, nothing has really been coming into force. So I think the thing is absolutely open. As I said, each country has their little bits of rules and regulations depending on their circumstances. But I really wish there was a world body with one set of regulations, because the internet and digital platform is across the world. It's a song by John Lennon, Imagine. Reminds me there are no borders on the internet. You can access it across the world. Of course, if you get blocked, if you get stopped, that's a different issue. But I think the age has come for connectivity. The age has come for making a difference. And let me tell you, I'd like to talking about women in this business. When I started my first radio station and when I was recruiting, 87% of my team members were women. And trust me, they rocked. They truly rocked. 24 hours of radio broadcast. I'm talking about nearly 20, 25 years ago. When people was, wondering, can ladies work 24 hours? Can they work the night outs on a radio station? All that was happening then. Hats off to them. And I'm sure the media, whether it be OTT platform, which have exploded over the last 2 years, especially when we were all stuck at home, rightly said, no one really wants to go to the hall. But I hope that happens soon. Otherwise, businesses would have problems and there would be very limited, halls actually existing because of conditions. So I just like to rest my case because we RJs, though I'm heading a station, I'm also an RJs. I just like to rest my case because I think we RJs like to talk too much. And if we are not put on leash, we'll just carry on talking. I just like to say one thing. I think internet as a medium, connectivity as a medium requires a lot of freedom. But sorry to say, there are a lot of people out there who misuse that freedom. There are a lot of issues about privacy. Suddenly you find that, things are going across the mediums where people are put down, people are shaken up, people are pushed to a corner. And I think in these circumstances, the sense of responsibility should come in. Intellectual property rights should be respected, and the medium of digital formats, whichever way you look at it, should not be used to pull down people and wash dirty linen in public. Critically important. The day human beings and humanity realizes that, I think it'll be a real fun world. The world will become a warmer place, a closer place. Warmer in the sense, not the heat wave we are going through, but I'm talking about heart to heart. And I think that's what's very, very important. And it's time all of us come together. And I'm sure with a lot of intellectuals and a lot of people, especially in the education sphere, we can encourage the youth to look in a very, very different way to the digital medium. It's a great medium. People are making pots of money, likes, views, etc., etc. But look at some of the sleazy stuff just because they have 1 million or 2 million views. So I think as educationists, everybody plays a big important role for the positivity of where the digital format should look ahead. And of course, to control the rot or the wrong at these special times, I'm sure there should be a universal set of rules and regulations put into place. With that, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure engaging and interacting with all of you. I'm really humbled and I'm honored. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Jimmy. I was once again overwhelmed and I was really passionately listening to your voice. And as you said that there should be a global kind of freedom, it reminded me of Lionel Richie's song, We Are the World. So I was recollecting that.
Yes, We Are the World, it's not Lionel Richie. It was by USA for Africa. And there were 32 artists who came together. And guess what? I played that song last night on my show. And I spoke about global warming. And I said, We Are the World. It's not about hunger. I think we need to get together and make a difference.
Yes, and I remember that because I was in school those days and we used to sing together in school whenever we wanted to. And that was so kind of enriching, And see, I could connect to what you said. And I think Professor Chaudhary will also agree to what I say today, that this evening is supposedly, I think, the most entertaining, educative, and charming evening where we are talking about academics, where we are talking about entertainment, we are talking about what we like. And this is happening. It is such a wonderful platform today, though it is the last platform, but it is, I personally feel that it is one of the best platforms I have ever come across, where people are putting in their knowledge, which is so relevant and we can connect so easily. I hope Professor Chaudhary agrees to what I said. He might have more to add on to that, but this is just a little bit of what I wanted to share.
Just that every end has another beginning. So this is the last of 75. Many more things coming up later, but that's for another time. Please continue.
Yeah. So Now, as we have our president, Professor K.G. Suresh with us, and we have our most loved Ghulam sir with us, can we have a brief interaction?
They would be speaking later. Let's finish the proper panel first.
Okay,
Kindly
so
finish the panel.
okay, as Professor Chaudhary has suggested, then I would like now Dr. Borat to wrap up this webinar session before
No, you
we
have
can go.
Mr. Rasman.
Yes. I'm sorry. I was so engaged. In this session that I
miss. Mr. Dr. MC Rasmin is there.
Address,
we are waiting for him.
So we have our keynote speaker. I'm sorry, Professor Chaudhary and the entire platform. I was too mesmerized with the speeches. Now we have our
Jimmy's voice is voice of Calcutta. It's mesmerizing.
Voice of Calcutta, absolutely.
Last 25 years is the voice of Calcutta.
Now, let me welcome Professor Dr. MC Rasmin, who is the Foundation for Advanced Critical Thinking in South Asia. So, Dr. Rasmin, with these few words, I welcome you to the platform of today's topic, Media Rights and Freedom in Digital Times. And I do apologize because I was totally carried off by what I was listening to, and I just slipped your name, but it was completely unintentional. You can please take the platform and come up with your lucrative words.
Thank you, but I was certainly worried. I was certainly worried, not because of that. I'm living in a great uncertainty where you don't know at what time you will lose your electricity. So
yeah,
I think
you said that.
In case if I vanish at some point, it's not just because I wanted to do so. It's a decision made somewhere else. So you will have to apologize to me on that.
Okay.
So I'm not going to make an academic presentation today, but I just wanted to reflect on 4 basic things. Number one, now reflecting briefly on the very first speaker, professor, and the latest radio presenter. Now we know stealing data, gender stereotyping, or compromising intellectual property rights are not acceptable, but it is happening. And we also know deep fake, and I've heard Rana Ayub's story very recently, producing deep fake or any form of fake purposely insulting a person or compromising person's dignity is unlawful or not acceptable, but it is happening. Now the question is, then where is the problem? Is it problem in the demand side or supply side or somewhere else? I think I just wanted to first of all understand, how do we measure media freedom, media rights? And I just recall we've had some turbulence in the parliament in Sri Lanka where existing government wanted to introduce Data Privacy Act, and that was sort of badly criticized by a lot of opponents and media organizations. And at some point, our Justice Minister said, remember, there is no rights separately for media and journalists. It's just the common freedom of expression that every citizen are given to the journalist. And it's only the privileges that are given to, journalist. It is in this context. Also in Sri Lanka, I mean, it's 45th or 6th day, millions of people, like they are in the road looking for justice or democracy or what? I mean, a regime change. Yeah, I mean, we can call it it is in this context, how do we measure internet freedom, media freedom, and what are some of the yardstick that we should use? I mean, if I am to just go back to, a broader media literature ecosystem, I can find three major instruments. Number one, that was produced by UNESCO, Media Development Indicators. And number two, International Research and Exchanges Board, IREX, has produced an indicator toolkit called Media Sustainability Index. And there was another tool by Doshwala, DW Academia. I mean, all these big instruments, they are looking at least 3 to 5 different yardsticks, such as status of freedom of expression, plurality of voice, viability of media, entrepreneurship development, organizational development factor, professional trainings organizations. Unfortunately, none of these instruments very carefully captures internet freedom or the idea of freedom of journalism and the rights of media personnel that we are discussing. So that's number one. Number two, as I briefly mentioned from the beginning of my presentation, that we know what is right and what is wrong, but who it is to be blamed? Is it internet, big data companies, Facebook, YouTube channels, online media channels? I think at least in my opinion, where we have to drive our conversation towards is that that the fact that internet's economic model, the discussion on economic model is lost somewhere. I mean, we always blame on Facebook and other internet, search engines and data companies and telecommunication agents, but often we academics forget to understand the very business design of internet. So I think that's point number two. I just wanted to recall. Number three, coming back to Sri Lanka. Yeah, of course, we know different types of means and tools that are used to restrict fair dissent and voice of journalists and media organizations. And I don't need to sort of list out all of them. But my third point, what is really the voice of civil society and academia and media advocates and lobbyists and unions in order to sort of resist the power of government that can do anything. I mean, a month ago, we've had internet shutdown in Sri Lanka, right? And on top of that, it's very interesting. I don't know if I'm sure all of you are following Sri Lanka, but this message, Sri Lankan government, and of course, quote unquote, Sri Lankan government officials had some jammers set up within this a public protest in Galle Face in Colombo, where you have millions of people, at least 1 million, sources says, in order to restrict the airwaves and telephone signals. Right? And nobody can question. Part of it is internet. We all say, like, we sometimes glorify and we sometimes romanticize the power of internet. Of course, it allows voices and it allows dissents. It learning from Arabic Springs, and now in Sri Lanka, yeah, it mobilized a lot of youngsters and it united. All is true. I mean, I don't have a problem. But my fourth question is, what is the quality of such a powerful internet sphere to increase the quality of journalism and quality of democracy, right? So that is where I think we academic should sort of direct our research focus into. I mean, there is no point again and again doing research and saying, yeah, internet freedom is down and coming with hundreds of yardstick and telling like, oh, India is this scale and Sri Lanka is far worse or better. I mean, I'm not so interested on that. But what I am so interested is to accurately study on the fact on to what extent internet is really given us enhanced the quality of the journalism and the democratic voices and assured freedom of media personnel and journalist. And then my last point, I just also wanted to check. Of course, I have 6 minutes, but with this uncertainty, I will finish little earlier in case if I had to vanish properly, not ending the presentation. The last the point is, of course, now we have, and I think one of our speakers, the radio person, also mentioned, we need global mechanism. I mean, I should very respectfully warn, because of my little experience, at least based in Sri Lanka, on that. I mean, sometimes we used to believe like, yeah, having global indicators might settle everything, or global mechanisms sometimes might, make our life wonderful, but it's not the case. Now, I studied very carefully UNESCO's MDI, and I also studied very carefully IREX's MSI, Media Sustainability Index. My understanding, having closely been working with academic colleagues in India and other parts of South Asia, we need to, at least the forum, global forum that is hosting this 75th day event, should work within the region to understand what are the local indicators that we can think of in order to measure the lived reality in Sri Lanka and India and other South Asian regions, because media in Sri Lanka is not equal to the media in India. Hindustan Time or Doordarshan is not equal to what we have at SLBC in Sri Lanka. I mean, we cannot just simply put them as same media, and we cannot treat them as using one simple definition we have globally. So while it is very important to have global mechanism, I respect the idea and it is important, but at the same time, I think GMEC can engage and explore the requirement, at least the need of understanding locally driven set of indicators that can accurately measure our own lived reality when it comes to freedom of press and rights of media personnel. And then maybe, since I have 5 minutes, but I'll just finish with this input. One thing, like, we also should start certainly questioning again, going slightly backward and understanding what is media and journalist, at least in the internet era. I mean, I learned within this last 45 days of public protest in Sri Lanka, hundreds of new media actors, hundreds of civil, civil voices with a lot of digital tools. I mean, they run 24 hours YouTube channels and interviews, and we never know. I mean, you can just walk, you will have to meet 5 bloggers and 2 YouTube operators. Aren't we putting them all into our one bucket of media that we all are discussing? I mean, otherwise, how are we going to treat them? Who they are? Are they journalists, or whatever they are, whoever they are also doing the same sort of, they're part of the same mission. So with that, I think I have to conclude my session. It's 9 o'clock now, and I think I may use electricity anytime now, and I might not be able to also wait any longer. So I'm getting signals. So thank you so very much for inviting me for this wonderful session. And I'm so glad to meet all of you, my Indian colleagues.
Dr. Rasmeen, thank you very much for a wonderful suggestion that we should focus on, work in South Asia to understand the local lived realities, as you say, that create the media differentiators from one country to the other, the locally driven indicators of our lived realities in regards of press freedom and quality of journalism. Thank you for that. And also, this technology hypnotism, to be away from that and focus on quality of journalism and quality of democracy. We'd like to talk with you later on beyond this meeting on how we can have an operations in Sri Lanka also. We already have one faculty member from there as a member, but we'd like to further explore with you. Thank you for your presence, your patience, and I understand the struggles through which the nation is going. We totally empathize, and that the challenges of economy are there in our country as well, in Nepal as well, very much in Pakistan, as you know. Maybe Bangladesh is doing a little better in comparison to many other countries in this region. But we really appreciate your presence today. Back to Devavani, ma'am.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, Rasmin sir. We would have really missed a true life story and the situation in Sri Lanka, as you discussed, if we did not have a person like you on this platform. And we are really thankful that you have supported us and you have shared such kind of grueling reality, which we generally get to see on print mediums and maybe some clippings on through visuals. But the person who is staying there and facing such traumatic situations, sharing the reality is the biggest thing, and facing it is more bigger. So thank you, Rasmin sir, for what we have talked and you have shared. And we would love to have you again on such a lucrative platform like GMEC. Now, we have another wonderful event in our pipeline. This is a book launch by Professor Arvind Sinha. The name of the book is Culture, Communication and India's Development. And his co-editors are Dr. N. Sudhakar Rao, published by Mr. Ashok K. Mittal. Can I request the back end my host to let me know whether Mr. Sinha has made on this platform? Has he joined?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Devyani.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It is a pleasure to have you on this platform in such a short time. And I'm really thankful, and the entire team is thankful to you, including our president, Professor K.G. Suresh, our vice president, and our secretary, Professor Ujjwal Kumar Chaudhary, Professor Ghulam Rahman. We welcome you on this platform, and we are ready for this book launch now, mentioning culture, communication, and India's development. Now, Professor Sinha
may speak, please. Yeah, Dr. Sinha may speak. I must tell the audience, Dr. Sinha is one of the earliest, persons whom we have honored in this series of 75 top media educators today. And today, the last being Ruchi. And Dr. Sinha has been very kind. He is a scholar of development communication, worldwide well-known. He has been the acting director of MICA. He has been the dean of Shanti Business School. He has been guiding scholars, research scholars by the dozens, in fact. And he heads an international organization on development communication. Over to you, Dr. Sinha, to speak about the book and also show the book.
Thank you, Professor Chaudhary. I'm really happy to see some of the known faces. Diwakar.
We have a problem with your voice, Dr. Sinha. Dr. Sinha, we have a problem with the voice.
Connectivity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there are connectivity issues.
So is a problem.
Okay. Yeah. You speak slowly.
So this is the book which has been. Yeah, this is the book which has been published recently. This month only, and both me and Sudhakar is grateful to GECE Global Media Education Council for giving the opportunity. The book is a outcome of a seminar where we discuss how development is linked with communication and how communication takes everything from the cultural context. So development using communication in the cultural context is the emphasis of the book. So development is a theoretical and the practical say case scholars were compared. They are basically the body researchers who made their presentation based on their original researches. So I hope that it will be a contribution to the at least the students from development studies, students of communication studies, and also students of anthropology, which emphasizes on culture. I try to say establish the connect between culture, communication, and development, and it traces back to 1934 when the Anthropological World Congress had emphasized on it, and that's from where we have taken the thread and then given a complete development history of using culture and communication in development center. So that's all from our side. As Sudhakar, I'm not sure if Sudhakar got the link. I just sent the link to him, but I'm not sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Back to the one.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sinha. Thank you, Dr. Sinha. That was lovely. And we are now in touch with the new book, which is talking about the development communication, which we require in the class every day while we conduct our classes on this specialized topic. And we look forward to read this book and enrich ourselves. So the program is now coming to an end. The program is coming to an end. And now I would request our session chair, Dr. Ipshita Borat, to wrap up the session. Dr. Borat, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah. Post Ipshita speaking, I would be requesting some of the present dignitaries from different countries. But before that, Madam Bharat to summarize today's key learnings and wrap up.
Learning skills.
Thank you, Professor Shilji. It was indeed a pleasure, hearing everyone and such varied discussions. I mean, of course, I was thrilled hearing about Sri Lanka and Professor Rasponi. But to begin with, Professor Dhrupajyoti Chattopadhyay, gave us an amazing insight into media rights and what heading and beginning the discussion. Professor Jaggi, I thank you for the lovely presentation, for such an in-depth presentation. And I was just thinking, we spoke, it was such a dialectic discussion. You were speaking about how, say, digitization brought forward, and it's such good times, with regard to representation of women in OTT and streaming platforms. So it kind of opens up new avenues for filmmakers and a different kind of representation. Whereas I, on the other hand, was speaking about something which was contrasting in nature, where I was talking about that even though it does open up kind of avenues, but ultimately Netflix or Prime is becoming the next Yash Raj or the next Dharma production, and ultimately it's all boiling down to a couple of corporates or a couple of conglomerates. So I just found that entire, of course, Mr. Jimmy Tengri, I mean, it was wonderful when you spoke about the global scenario and how media rights, some sort of media, some sort of commonality in terms of all nationalities, in context of media rights, should be and needs to be the order of the day. And of course, it was an eye-opener when Dr. Rasmani was talking about it. He was continuously talking about the electricity, might be switched off at any moment. And this kind of reminded me that ultimately, when we are talking about media rights in digital times, we are talking from a very, very privileged position. Right, because we cannot forget that we still live in a country where it's not a majority of the citizens do not have internet privileges. So when we talk about freedom, when we talk about media rights in the digital scenario, in the age of digitization, we are talking from a very, very privileged position. And finally, everything we discussed today, when I discuss this with my students, they have usually one question, which I think will quickly sum up the discussions today. They say, ma'am, which model then will be the best possible model? And this comes from when Dr. Rasmani was talking about that there's very less discussion on the economic model, and there should be more discussions around the same, because end of the day, media is also a business entity, so we cannot leave that, and students say, ma'am, does TRP model, if it's not working, because of course I say TRP model is not the correct model, then the other option is subscription model. But we already know Netflix is losing subscription in India, right? So whether subscription model is workable model in India or not, that's a big question. But
kindly mute everyone else. Yes, Ipsita ma'am.
Then we have the corporate ownership model, and that's a big question, because now the Tesla owner, we all know, is going to own. I mean, he's the owner of Twitter. There's only Mark Zuckerberg who already owns Facebook, Instagram. So social media is already owned by 2 or 3 people, and we never know when Jeff Bezos is kind of joining the bandwagon. So, and at the same time, if we say no, but then, social media, and it's all, everybody, as again, Dr. Rasmani was saying, everybody was there, everybody's posting about events, everybody's posting about what's happening in Sri Lanka. But then this also brings forward a new challenge, the challenge of fake news, or the challenge of WhatsApp University. So yes, digitization does bring freedom, limited freedom because of the economic model, but does bring freedom. But then again, this freedom also comes with its own set of challenges. On that note, I again congratulate GMEC for this wonderful session. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to all this.
Thank you, not just for a very succinct summarizing and pointing out the critical aspect of economics of media, but also thank you for being a valued member of the GMEC Research Review Board, and that actually okayed the 67 research papers which were presented in earlier sessions. And I would request everyone to have patience for the next 10-12 minutes. We'd like to hear and see some of our mentors and seniors at this point of time. Let me begin with Dr. Mohammad Ghulam Rahman, the editor-in-chief for Ajker Putrika, the 3rd largest media house of the newspaper of Bangladesh, and also the former Chief Information Commissioner and Professor Emeritus of Media, who had taught in Dhaka University and also has been the Pro-Vice Chancellor of Daffodil International University. Dr. Rahman, a word of your advice and guidance that we have completed one journey and will begin the new one later. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Ujjwal. It is a great pleasure. It is a great opportunity, I should say. There's 75 evenings, 75 lectures, and altogether you made a wonderful job. And I was witness of your several programs. Whenever I got time, and I peeped into it, and it was really great occasion, great presentations, and great assembly of scholars and great thinkers from different parts of the world. And it's a great pleasure for me that I could participate with you. Most of my life I spent in the university teaching in Dhaka University, about 42 years. But now I'm the editor of a newspaper. Anyway, the thing today, the discussion was excellent, and I could find the lady scholar professor presented something very special on case study. And also the next presenter, I forgot his name, but it was very interesting that he could relate some interesting issue with
Dr. Rasmi.
Very striking point of internet and use of democracy and the quality of media and all that. So it was great. Anyway, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. And it is my learning at the same time. It is my great pleasure, and I'm proud of you all of you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sir, we are waiting for, under your mentorship, the Bangladesh, operations of GMAC to come up in big way, going ahead post Eid, after Eid. And I shall meet you soon when I'm in Bangladesh. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Gulab sir.
Let me also quickly invite Professor Divakar Shukla, the Dean of Jagran Lake City University of Media, and also someone who's worked very closely with Ogilvy and international bodies, particularly under the UN system on several campaigns, social campaigns, stalwart of social and cause-related communication. Professor Shukla, your words, please.
Thank you so much, Professor Ujjwal. I'm so happy that I was part of this session today because one, I had Professor Jaggi speaking. I was telling her, she's such a phenomenal academic and thinker. I always say in that sense. And what she spoke still rings in my ear, honestly. Amazing stuff, amazing stuff. So thank you so much, Rishi, for being here, and congrats to you for being honored. I think you deserve much, much more. I was extremely delighted the way each of the speakers, spoke. Jimmy brought in a very, very interesting points of digital radio and what is the regulation regime around digital radios around the world. And I think that's a good pertinent point to put and for us to think about. So it's an amazing session. I think Devamani Mukherjee has put up an excellent panel of speakers. So congrats to her to take it forward. I'm happy to see Arvind sir around here releasing his book. That's another very interesting thing, and to see him after long years. This 75 sessions, I have been part of many in terms of as an audience. I think this is a phenomenal effort on part of GMEC. This is something which has taken off, and I think Professor Chaudhary, Professor Suresh, Amrish Saxena ji, Rasul sir, all of you, and USP as well, you have been able to bind so many academics and professionals together. That's an amazing feat. And I look forward to the next journey. And I look forward to, meeting up Professor Dr. Rahman when we are in Bangladesh, and also Professor KG Suresh soon. Thank you so much, Professor Chaudhary.
Thank you. And you have also done a fabulous program yesterday. Yesterday's program was extremely high quality, of which you are the leader. I look forward to the next phase of GMAC with your leadership also on many, many activities, not just once in a while, but on many activities. Thank you for your presence.
I want Ruchi to just keep on, kind of inspiring us so many things.
Yes. Dr. Gauri Chakravarti, please. Are you there?
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Yes, please. Come.
So very good evening to old colleagues like Ruchi and to newer friends who are part of GMAC. And sir, compliments to the entire team. Actually, it's so right in saying that the working committee members are actually the flag bearers of these 75 sessions. And, the coupling of leadership and the same-mindedness, the very, astute collaboration. It's all kind of worked together to create these 75 sessions. I think what's going to be very critical is the compendium of thoughts that we will amass. That also becomes a white paper of what all has been discussed in the last 75 sessions. And my compliments to everybody who has been acknowledged for their presence at GCC. We look forward to more activities. And last but not the least, I have always maintained that films and popular culture, films as part of popular culture, is at many times, it goes to the peripheries of discussing media and mass communication in per se. And today in the last session, I feel so the thought that it should also be part of discussion again and again stands validated, because politics of representation and filmmaking are areas that I'm really, really passionate about. It was great to hear the views of Dr. Ipshita and Dr. Jaggi. And I think really interesting session, which I think, starts the pathways to new avenues, sir. So compliments to you, sir, for leading us through the way.
It would have been good to have everyone speak, but then there is limited time. I see very senior Professor Dr. Subala Subramaniam here, Dr. Professor Suresh Chandra Nayak here, Dhirendra Kumar ji Behra here, Satish ji here, and Ashwati from Cochin is also here. But limited time, I will call upon the Vice President of Global Media Education Council, someone who has actually personally attended more than, I think, 35 or 30 sessions, maybe 50% of the entire lot, which I could not do, and actually led in introductions and mentoring to many, many people, many of our young scholars who have been leading these evenings. So I invite Dr. Amrish Saxena, the Dean of DME Media Academy, which is a part of the DME College under Indraprastha University from Noida, and the Vice President of Global Media Education Council, Dr. Saxena.
Thank you, Professor Chaudhary. So it was a delight for me to be there in most of the sessions. I mean, to the extent it was possible, because the kind of stalwart, the kind of scholars who have been there, that's really astonishing, and that can be realized only by a person who have been there in the sessions. So that's the greatest success of Global Communication Education Conclave, that it has brought so many scholarly people at one platform. And this has happened, obviously, as Professor Chaudhary said it in the beginning also, that this has happened for the first time. And this is just a beginning, because if so many people have gathered for a good cause, for some academic purpose, which is obviously the social orientation is also there, whatever we are doing. And right from entertainment, from television, cinema, to development communication, to radio, I mean, all like aspects, all branches, all streams of media,
photography, fashion communication, whatnot.
So diverse, so
media
diverse.
Literacy.
Yeah, it was so diverse and so interesting, like today also. And then we could get the global perspective. That's again important. Like in today's session, I was listening to Jimmy about this radio, how this radio has been working, because we in India have a different kind of experience, despite all kind of diversification which in radio has happened, right from community radio to satellite radio. All that has happened in India, but the diverse picture comes to us when we get to listen to such kind of speakers. So it was really amazing, and I find myself lucky to be part of this whole endeavor. And I believe that many more, as Professor Chaudhary already spelled out, many more ventures we will be into, right from research projects to making a model curriculum and all. And we all are ready to contribute to the best of our capacities to all future endeavors. Thank you all.
And I know you don't just speak, you actually walk your talk. And you have actually done that in the last 1 year that we have been together. Professor K.G. Suresh, Vice Chancellor, Makhanlal Chaturvedi University, and our very dear President. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Well, I wanted to be there yesterday also. But at that time, I was inside the sanctum sanctorum of the Srirangam temple in Tiruchirappalli. I've just landed in Bhopal. But I said that I would be here. This is the, final event of this series. And what a session it was. My congratulations to all the speakers. I mean, it was a sheer pleasure listening to each and every speaker. And I would be doing injustice if I refer or talk about the points made by, very valid points made by all the speakers. I'm sure we will remember it for a long time. Friends, we are now, I won't say fag end, we are at the end of this long series. I still remember when me and Ujjwal, we were discussing this entire thing. And honestly, I never thought that it would be such a huge success. Parents sometimes don't realize how great their kids are going to be. And I remember telling Professor Ujjwal that why don't we do something to mark 75
Right.
years of India's independence.
That was your suggestion, right?
And what he came up with, the blueprint that he came up with, was amazing. And you had the entire media education fraternity just latching onto it. I think this was one event which united media education fraternity across India and the globe. So many people have got joined. As for the rough statistics, Ujjwal may correct me, we had about 502 speakers and collaborators.
Right, exactly.
So I think that we have done a great job, and the credit goes to each one of the moderators, of the people who took it forward, took the initiative of inviting people. And of course, Ujjwal with his never say die spirit, he is indefatigable. He is unthuckable, I say. He is somebody who is always on the move. And with so many assignments, in Nepal, in Bangladesh, I don't know how he manages. So I'm really delighted that, and of course, the entire team, which has been working very dedicatedly and made this event a huge success and the talking point among media educators. Day in and day out, I'm receiving messages from new faculty members working in small private universities saying, sir, please associate me with GMAC. Because, and that's what, when Professor Ujjwal came to Bhopal and we were spending an evening together, I told him that what GMAC has done has democratized the media education platform. I'm sorry to use this, I don't want to take any names, but they were considered very elitist and unapproachable, only approachable to certain people, only approachable, accessible to people working in privileged universities. But GMAC opened its doors to everybody through GSEC. And every media educator working anywhere in the country today identifies himself with GMAC. That is our strength, but that is also our big challenge because the expectations have gone up. And rightly so. I know this is not the time for a long lecture, but I'm sure the team here would not sit on laurels. The success of this 75-day event is in fact a call to each one of us to again come together and take up certain key issues on which we had conceptualized at the beginning itself, we shall work. We are not going to be, we are very clear, we are not going to be an event management platform. This is going to be a serious academic platform. Otherwise, there is no point, when we say that it is democratized, not for seminars and webinars, that's no big deal. What is important is the focus on research, the focus on publications, the focus on enhancing the employability and skills of our media students. The focus has to be on generating a new discussion, on making mass communication. I was at the Central University of Tamil Nadu in Tiruvarur for the last 3 days. And I said that, why is it that even today, mass communication is not a subject in the UPSC examinations? It should be. I think we should be working in that direction so that our students get maximum opportunity. We should be working in a direction where the mass communication subject, despite being around for over 100 years, continues to be treated, I'm sorry to use the term, continues to be meted out a second-class treatment compared to other disciplines. In fact, even in Delhi University, it is the language departments which teach journalism. We need to think about this. These are the big challenges before us. But I'm sure after seeing the success of this 75 days program, in which everybody very enthusiastically, eagerly participated, I'm confident that it is not going to be a cakewalk, but yes, we are all motivated to work in that direction. GMEC has to become a platform which promotes excellence, which promotes quality, which promotes research, which promotes publications, which promotes Indian academia at the global level, and which brings international academia to the developing world, which also has to ensure that in the new information order, the South is not neglected, the developing countries are not neglected, their issues also find importance. These are all big challenges, but I'm sure that we have the capacity, we have the competence to meet those challenges, and we have a great team which has the capacity to deliver it. So on that note, once again, I wish to congratulate each and every member of our fraternity, and I would say congratulations to Professor Ujjwal Chaudhary for making it happen. Thank you so much. A token of gratitude from all of us. Thank you so much.
I accept it with the humility, but it could not have been possible unless the 42 moderators or working committee members would have done what they have done. I also request everyone to be on video, because we'll click a picture of this last moment of this series. That's one. And I would like to put forth a few points before I close this, before we close this evening. I know it has been a long evening. It's 2 hours, 2 minutes just now. Point one, the outcome of this series. First, we are coming out with a 75 Jewels of Indian Media Education book, which will have the brief profile of the 75 awardees and their pictures, and also an article from them, which should not be more than 1,000 words. So that's one for mass reading. It is not academic book, so in that sense, but for a mass reading. That's one. We are coming out with an academic book of selected 50 research papers out of the 67 which have been put up. The selection and everything is going on, rewriting and all that is going on. So that's second. And third, we are coming out with a book also called Contemporary Reflections on Media and Communication, which are basically the foreign speakers, the other speakers, chief guests, and the session chair, and even the moderators, ourselves, we will be writing on. So all those details will be shared later. I'm just telling it. And all the award winners, we are a poor organization. We don't have any great source of income. Yes, we'll be announcing membership, a very humble membership of 2,000 rupees per year, so which I think everyone can surely contribute. But so far, we got support from edinbox.com, educational portal for 3 lakhs. And we are expecting some support from other sources which will come. We'll talk about it, with which the books will come out. And I would also like to note here that there are a few serious projects being taken. So a series of 50 themes on which are the latest areas of development, whether emerging technologies of media are concerned, whether issues of gender is concerned, or many other issues. The list has been once shared, it will be shared again with all. 502 people which will be shared with who have spoken so far. So a weekly series will start of one speaker, monograph sort of thing, one speaker in depth and others commenting, discussing on that. That's a serious research-based series. Then Dr. Gauri Chakravarti is leading, and Dr. Punita is leading a project which is focusing on 50 new areas where syllabus have not been, or learning materials have not been well developed. These are completely new areas, and most of which, for example, one example, this has come, media economics has come. This has not been well developed in most, or media revenues has not been well developed in most universities. That's just one, but there are many more, including the modern technological issues like AI, ML in the context of media, or augmented reality and its impact on entertainment, such areas as well. And Dr. Gauri Chakravarti and Dr. Punita from Stella Maris Chennai, they are leading that project, which will have also a series, 50 areas, 50 areas. We are also, with the support of Dr. Monisha Kadri, Dr. Amrish Saxena, and Ashish Kulkarni, we are also aiming to start, aiming to have one placements, internship and placements online festival, where we are calling 50 media organizations, and we'll be inviting 500 media learners, final year students of graduates and post-graduation, and not more than 10 from each university, who will be placed through that experiment, through that exercise, in the 50 top media organizations of India, and some abroad as well. That's another, because as our president has just now said, it's important to increase the employability and also be useful to the students, and not just for our own career advancement. So that is another area that we are coming out with. And physical meet we plan to have later in the year. The time is not yet finalized. We are looking at October. It depends on a couple of sponsorship finalization. Talks are going on. And the first physical meet for India team would be in Darjeeling. That's we are looking at October. And the first global meet we are planning in Bangladesh, in Dhaka, and that will be early 2023. So this much is what, okay, the Dhaka committee in principle has been already made. One meeting has been done, and then the process will now be activated post-Eid. There is a African committee is in process. The Ghana, the Dean of Media from African University of Creativity and Communication, AUCC Ghana, Accra, he is leading the team. In case of Dhaka, Ghulam sir is our mentor, and Dr. Sheikh Safiul Islam, the Dean of Green University Media Department, he is leading the work there. So this is the progress so far and the work ahead. But we shall have a general body meeting very soon, where we'll discuss what and how we proceed ahead, and who would be heading or taking responsibilities in which category, which area. I would like to also note that each of these sessions, 75 sessions, will be edited into compact 1-hour videos, and a YouTube channel will be started under GMAC name, where all these 75 films would be put up, and the links will be shared with 720 media departments and institutes around the world, for which the data we have. I'm sure the number would gradually move to much more, maybe 2,500, but just now 700 plus we have, and we'll be contributing there. I will be sharing the content with them. And the 502, please remember, have some of the best scholars in the world. You know, Professor Murdoch, Professor Mould. I would not often remember all the names. There have been Srinivas Melkot, Professor Srinivas Melkot, and many other such stalwarts have been present in this series. I will not take your time. It's already 9:38, but I will be completely failing in my duty if I don't recognize the gentleman who has made all this, from the logo, which is just now seen behind the head of Dr. Amrish Saxena, virtual background, I know. So that logo onwards to every creative thing that you have seen on any platform, social media, Global Media Education Council. That's Kunal Samaddar. He is there, sitting there just now for the first time. I mean, he is on video. He is normally not ever on video, but I requested him. He is a full-time employee of a university, but still, every evening for the last 1 year, almost every evening, except few when he had taken family out, except maybe 7 or 8, every evening he has given for making the creatives of Global Media Education Council program. Let's give a big clap to Kunal Samaddar, who is just now there.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I also,
thank you, Kunal.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
I also would like to mention Manushree, who is now present under Team Zoom. You know, Manushree, who is there in Team Zoom. And Manushree, come. You just ran away. You come. She's
Thank
also.
you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Come on video. Why have you gone out of video? Be on video. So Manushree is the lady who has been talking to all of you and many others. I think all the 502 people, sometime or the other, have heard from her either on WhatsApp or on phone or on email and all that. Thank you, Manushree, for doing a fabulous work. Her work
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Manushree, my child.
Thank you so
Please
much.
grow
ma'am.
and shine.
Thank
Grow
you
and
so
shine.
Manushree is also employed full-time in a digital organization, digital media organization. Still has been doing this. And I must also tell that her work in GMAC was so good that the president of Press Club of Calcutta took note of it and involved her in a major project with UNICEF and Press Club together recently as an independent project. She did that, which spread over a couple of weeks, I suppose. That's all. Bala Subramaniam sir, thank you for your presence. I know you are there. Suresh Chandra Nayak.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Please, if you could come on video, let's. Please
Thank
come. Everyone else, if you could come on video, we'll take a picture of this moment. That's all. I mean, if everyone can come on video, whoever, it doesn't matter how you look. What matters is that you are there at this moment. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I've taken the picture of those.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. With this, we bring this historic to our, my president and vice president also feel so to our mind. This is the longest running media education initiative spread over 7 months, 75 evenings with 502 scholars, not just academicians, but researchers, practitioners, government bureaucrats, and also social activists, and topics from taboo topics to serious topics, even topics related to LGBTQ, Dalit rights, minority rights, to films. I mean, it has been already mentioned, advertising, brand communication, to fashion communication, photography, and every bit, media literacy, development communication, community media, everything has been covered across these 75 evenings. And I thank everyone for giving me an opportunity to be with you in doing something meaningful. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Gratitude.
Thank
We end
you.
this program here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Suresh sir.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Thank you so much. Take care.